Hello everyone and welcome to another video. In today's video I'm going to be speaking all about I almost said my favorite books. My god, what video am I filming? The books that I'm excited to read in 2023. I have a list of 15 books that I want to read. I've made the executive decision here to not keep repeating the books that I've had on my TBR for a very long time. I still want to read Wise Children by Angela Carter. I still want to read The Little Friend by Donna Tartt, but for the sake of not boring you guys, I'm going to be talking entirely about new books today, or at least books that I haven't mentioned on this channel before. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to say an enormous thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting my channel. I wouldn't be able to make these videos without the support of the beautiful people over on Patreon who are a part of our Patreon community. Over there we have a whole heap of bonus stuff. There is a tier called the Wyvern tier where everyone gets to make requests for certain videos. But this month, the month of January, I'm going to be filming a healthy, affordable what I eat in a day video. We also have a book club over there and a private Discord server, and I do a whole bunch of behind the scenes posts about Project Teacup, which is the novel I'm currently working on. So yeah, we have a really lovely little community over on Patreon, so if you're interested in checking it out, there's a link in the description down below. However, without further ado, let's jump straight into the video, and I'm going to be sharing with you the 15 books, that's 10, 15 books that I'm excited to read in 2023 that I haven't mentioned before. The very first book I want to talk about is called Kaikei by Vaishnavi Patel. This book is the book that we're reading for the month of January for our book club over on Patreon. I've read 2 chapters so far as of the filming of this video. When this video goes out, I will have read more of the book. So far, it's really interesting. This is a mythology retelling, and before I picked up this book, I didn't really know anything about Kaikei as a mythological figure. So it's about a young princess whose mother is banished, and Kaikei, from what I can tell so far, pulls from her beloved books and the stories she was told as a child and discovers her magic. And it's about the power that Kaikei builds within this kingdom, but I have not read past the first 2 very small chapters, so I'm very excited to read this book this year, specifically in the month of January. Book number 2 on my list is Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This one is on my TBR because it has been so hyped by so many different people on BookTube. I'm really intrigued about the fact that this book is only 250 pages, so like 60,000 words. It's very short for a fantasy novel. Your average contemporary fantasy is going to sit at around 90 to 100,000 words on average. It sounds very cool, and I will read the bio to you. After years of seeing her sisters suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one except for Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But as is the way in tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. I think it sounds very intriguing and interesting. I don't know heaps about the story aside from the fact that it is loved by so many people. It's a really interesting size. Book number 3 I'm really excited to talk about, and this is Please Do Not Touch This Exhibit by Jen Campbell. In 2022 I read this book, which is Jen Campbell's debut poetry collection, and I loved it to absolute bits. I thought the writing was so beautiful. I thought her use of theme and motif was stunning. I found out that Jen is actually coming out with her second poetry collection this year, later in the year. It's quite a way away, so you can't pre-order it yet. However, I am very excited for it. And also Jen very kindly sent me a digital proof of the book, of the poetry collection, and I'm so excited to read it. It has a number of similar themes to the Girl Aquarium, including Victorian circus and the freak show, folklore, the ocean, forests, and all these like really beautiful images. But also in this particular poetry collection, she examines her experiences of being a disabled person going through IVF. And also I think she said as well that it looks at the ways that we mythologize trauma. As I've just said a whole bunch, I love Jen Campbell. She has been my go-to booktuber for so many years. Like so many years I've loved her channel and followed her. I think she's such a talented human being. I will link the Girl Aquarium and her channel in the description down below. But I'm very excited to read Please Do Not Touch This Exhibit. Book number 4 is by Kelly Barnhill, and it is called When Women Were Dragons. Now I read The Girl Who Drank the Moon last year or the year before, I'm not sure. That was a middle grade book by Kelly Barnhill, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lovely, calming, cozy little read, but I didn't love it. It didn't wow me. However, I like the sound of this particular book, which I believe is Kelly Barnhill's debut for adult fantasy. A rollicking feminist tale set in 1950s America, where thousands of women have spontaneously transformed into dragons, exploding notions of a woman's place in the world and expanding minds about accepting others for who they really are. I think that is such a fascinating synopsis for a book, and I'm really excited to read it. I'm really excited to give Kelly Barnhill another go to see if the tone of this is more up my alley. This next book is called Good Morning Midnight by Jean Reese? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So last year I began this journey of really reading a whole bunch of 1920s books for reasons we won't get into, but you'll probably find out at some point. And I've read a whole bunch of books written during this time period. So I read Passing by Nella Larsen last year, which was really good. I literally just finished The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. Beautiful edition of this book. Did I love the book? Sure, there were some things in there that I didn't like, but an interesting book. This book, which is, I've already forgotten the name of it, Good Morning Midnight, is another book written during that time. The last of the 4 novels Jean Reese wrote in interwar Paris, Good Morning Midnight is the culmination of a searing literary arc which established Reese as an astute observer of human tragedy. Her every woman hero, Sasha, must confront the loves and losses of her past in this mesmerizing and formally daring psychological portrait. I'm excited to read this book. Mostly, as I said, I want to read it because of the setting and the time that it was written, but it is on my list and I hope to get to it very soon. The next book on my list is called How Far the Light Reaches, and this book is by Sabrina Imbler. This is a non-fiction book which is about creatures of the sea. I am constantly looking for interesting non-fiction books. I love deep sea creatures. I'm so enchanted by the ocean. It's such a beautiful motif and thing. I wanted to pick up this book because I thought the bio sounded really cool and very interesting. A queer mixed race writer working in a largely white male field, science and conservation journalist Sabrina Imbler has always been drawn to the mystery of life in the sea, and particularly to creatures living in hostile or remote environments. Each essay in their debut collection profiles one such creature. I love non-fiction books that weave in people's personal experiences with the content. Ghost Empire is a really good example of that. I loved the way that Richard Feidler wove in his experiences of traveling to Istanbul in 2014 with the ancient history of Constantinople, the city, and so I'm hoping that I have a similar experience with this in terms of getting to really understand the author and why they love these things that they love, and also learning about the ocean as well. The next book is called The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. There is so much hype for this particular book. I've seen so many people speak about it, and I think it sounds really interesting. So to my knowledge, it is a literary book and it's about motherhood, and I will read out the bio so I don't butcher this. Frida Liu is struggling. She doesn't have a career worthy of her Chinese immigrant parents' sacrifices. What's worse is she can't persuade her husband Gust to give up his wellness-obsessed younger mistress. Only with their angelic daughter Harriet does Frida finally feel she's attained the perfection expected of her. Harriet may be all she has, but she is just enough until Frida has a horrible day. And it says that it examines upper middle class parenting, the violence enacted on women by the state and by other women, and also motherhood generally. It's not the type of book I tend to pick up. I pick up literary novels every now and then, and generally when I do, I love them to bits, but I don't gravitate towards them for some reason. I don't know why. I'm excited for this one and I want to read it soon. The next book on the list is by Octavia E. Butler, and it is Parable of the Sower. No, not Parable of the Sower. This book is called Parable of the Sower, as in a person who sows things, like the sowing of seeds and things like that. I don't know why I thought this would be pronounced sour. I'm very sorry. I thought it was the Parable of the Solar for a very long time. I thought it was something to do with the sun. That's not true. I just misread it. The reason why I wanted to put this on the list is because last year, actually might have been the year before last year, at the end of what year is it? 2021. The end of 2021, we read this book by Octavia E. Butler, which is called Kindred, and it is a science fiction novel first published in 1979. This is a really wonderful science fiction book. I thought it was so well written and so interesting, and so I wanted to put another Octavia E. Butler book on my list because I wanted to read more from her. This book was published in 1993, I will add. In 2025, with the world descending into madness and anarchy, one woman begins a fateful journey towards a better future. Lauren Olamina and her family live in one of the only safe neighborhoods remaining on the outskirts of Los Angeles. When fire destroys their compound, Lauren's family is killed and she's forced out into a world that is fraught with danger. I think that sounds really interesting, and given the fact that I thought Octavia E. Butler's writing was so brilliant in this book, I'm excited to get to that one and to see how it is. The next book on this list is called Now She Is Witch by Kirsty Logan. I always put books by Kirsty Logan on my TBR. I'm following her on Twitter. I really love the idea of reading her books, but I've never read one yet. Like always the premises sound really interesting to me, but I'm hoping that finally this year I read one of her books, and I want to read this one because it sounds really witchy and cool and interesting. Now She Is Witch conjures a world of violence and beauty, a world where women grasp at power through witchcraft, sexuality, and performance, and most of all through throwing each other to the wolves. I'm really excited to finally read some of Kirsty Logan, not my name. Her name is Kirsty, because I think I'm really gonna like it and I'm excited to get to it. Book number 10 on this list is called Elena Knows, and it's by Claudia Pinheiro, translated by Frances Riddle. As I mentioned earlier, Jen Campbell is my go-to booktuber. The whole reason this book is on my list is because this was her favorite book of last year. So I just slapped it on the list because it sounds cool. I haven't read very many books translated from Spanish, and so I wanted to read more books in that area. The bio of this one is a unique tale that interweaves crime fiction with intimate tales of morality and search for individual freedom. After Rita is found dead in the bell tower of the church she used to attend, the official investigation into the incident is quickly closed. Her sickly mother is the only person still determined to find the culprit, chronicling a difficult journey across the suburbs of the city, an old debt, and a revealing conversation. Elena Knows unravels the secrets of its characters and the hidden facets of authoritarianism and hypocrisy in our society. It sounds fascinating. I never read crime fiction. Like, I've read so few crime novels, and so I'm really interested in checking this one out. It sounds very cool. Book number 11 on this list also draws from this 1920s theme I have going, and it is called Naomi by Junichiro Tanizaki, and it's also translated by Anthony H. Chambers. This book was published in 1925 in the interwar years, and it's set in Tokyo. That is the main reason I want to read the book. I don't know if I'm gonna love it. I don't know if I'm gonna love the author's style or the content, but it's on this list because I really want to read it because the setting and the time that it was published. When 28-year-old Georgie first lays eyes on the teenage waitress Naomi, like she's a teen, we already have problems, but I want to read the book, I swear. He is instantly smitten by her exotic, almost Western appearance, determined to transform her into the perfect wife and to whisk her away from the seamy, did I write that down properly? Underbelly of post-World War I Tokyo. Georgie adopts and ultimately marries Naomi, paying for English and music lessons that promise to mold her into his ideal companion. But as she grows older, Georgie discovers that Naomi is far from the naive girl of his fantasies. Sounds like it's going to be an interesting read. As I said, I don't know if I love the premise of this, but as I said, it was published in 1925, and I want to read more books written and published during this time, and so I'm excited to read it. I'll let you guys know how I go. I'm a little bit nervous about that one. I don't know if I'm gonna love it. The next two books I have on this list are books that I bought while on holiday in Japan. We do have a small handful of Japan vlogs coming out, but I didn't want to just stop all of my book content and go into Japan content, because I know a bunch of you guys like are here for book content, not Japan content. Anyway, that's the wrong book. The two books I want to talk about, so books 12 and 13, are these two, which I bought from Books Kinokuniya Shinjuku, and you would have seen me talk about it if you watched the last Japan vlog, so I'll try to be quick here for the sake of repetition. The first book I'll speak about is Kiki's Delivery Service, which was written by Eiko Kadono and illustrated by Joe Todd Stanton and translated by Emily Ballistieri. I'm assuming that most of you guys know Kiki's Delivery Service, the Studio Ghibli film. I love this film to absolute bits. I've never seen this book being sold in a shop. If you don't know the premise of Kiki's Delivery Service, it is about a young witch who is, I believe, around the age of 12 and who goes off to a big city in order to earn her way, and it's a coming of age story, and it's very magical and cute, and so I'm hoping that the book has all those vibes, and I'm really excited to read it. These are spoilers for one of the other books, and the other one is called Idol Burning by Rin Usami. This is a book that actually Tyler picked. He thought it looked interesting. Apparently it's very popular in Japan and has been really popular recently, and it is about a teenage girl who becomes obsessed with a male idol. I don't know much more about it than that, but it sounds pretty intriguing, and I'm excited to give it a go. Book number 14 on this list, and the second to last one, is called The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This book looks so cute and cozy and wholesome. It is a fantasy romance, and as I've mentioned so many times, romance doesn't tend to be my kettle of fish. That is not the phrase. Romance does not tend to be my cup of tea generally. However, I'm really intrigued by this one. It looks very cute. I've seen some really positive things about it. A warm and uplifting novel about an isolated witch whose opportunity to embrace a quirky new family and a new love changes the course of her life. As Mika begins to find her place at Nowhere House, the thought of belonging somewhere begins to feel like a real possibility. But magic isn't the only danger in the world, and when a threat comes knocking at the door, Mika will need to decide whether to risk everything to protect a found family she didn't know she was looking for. I think it sounds really sweet and really cute, as I said. And then the very last book of this list, which was hinted at by the books that was spilling over on the coffee table here, is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. Many of you guys know that I love Kazuo Ishiguro's work. I love Never Let Me Go. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I think it is brilliant. Clara and the Sun, however, I thought it was good, but it did not blow me away. The overall story and some of the themes just kind of didn't impact me as much as I wanted with that book. So I'm really excited to give some of Kazuo Ishiguro's earlier work a go, and The Remains of the Day is the one that I keep coming back to that's been on my TBR for a really long time. In the summer of 1956, Stevens, a long-serving butler at Darlington Hall, decides to take a motoring trip through the West Country. The 6-day excursion becomes a journey into the past of Stevens and England, a past that takes in fascism, 2 world wars, and an unrealistic love between the butler and his housekeeper. I think it sounds really brilliant. Really, I'm just chasing the magic that I got out of this book and the emotional punches of this book because I love it so much. So I'm hoping that I love The Remains of the Day as much as I loved Never Let Me Go. I hope you enjoyed this list and managed to get some interesting books for your own TBR. Next week we have another Japan vlog. Hopefully it is the Hakone vlog if all goes well and I can get it edited in time. The last Japan vlog was so much editing work. It took me ages. I had to work that whole week. I did other writing stuff, but also I worked through the weekend to get it done. I was really proud of it. So if you haven't seen it yet, our first Japan vlog is up on my channel. Oh, and finally, an enormous thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting my channel and for making these videos possible. Take care everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.